Today we are wrapping up our little mini series on pasturing our American guinea hogs. In part 1, we got our electric quick pig fence from Premier One. We set it up inside the corral where we had the pigs at the time to train them to electric. In part 2, we led the pigs out of the corral, across the driveway, and out into pasture out there. And then today in part 3, we have a paddock shift for the pigs. We're going to move them off of this paddock into a new one. It's been about a week since they've been in this one. And after moving the pigs, we're gonna work on a little bit of pasture rehab. First, the plan for the pig corral here. Hi, Penelope. You see Penelope's in here. There's been a bit of a complication. We'll get to that in a minute, but the pig corral here was terribly compacted. So the plan is to use this broadfork. This is a Meadow Creature broadfork that I got in Vashon Island where these things are made. According to many expert broadforkers, this is the best broadfork that you can get. I'm going to be broadforking this pig corral area to help decompact the soil. After decompacting, I'm going to be putting down a cover crop mix. This is a winter rye and hairy vetch mix from High Mowing Seeds. These are certified organic seeds. The rye is a cold hardy grass that will grow well through the fall, so we'll have some green matter growing in the soil in the fall here. And then the vetch is a legume. It's a high protein source of forage for the sheep that gets protected by the rye over the winter and should be coming up pretty good in the spring. Come here, Penelope. Come here, girl. You want to tell everyone what you did? Well, if you don't tell them, I'm going to tell them. Penelope has been my fence tester. Anytime my electric fencing that the sheep are in is off for any length of time, I see her with her head through the hole trying to graze outside of the paddock through the fence. Generally it hasn't been an issue. I try to correct it, I try to get the fence on and back her out, that sort of thing, but this last week when Justin Rhodes and his family were here on the Great American Farm Tour, I had the fence off more than I usually do out of respect for the chidlers. I didn't want anybody getting mistakenly shocked, anything like that, so we've had the fence off a little bit more than we normally do. One morning I came out to do morning chores before the Rhodes family had gotten up, and I noticed part of the fence was down and Penelope was out. None of the other sheep had escaped, but Penelope was just walking around the periphery. I just quietly and casually guided her back in. There were no issues, no conflicts, whatever. Then the next day or so, Justin and Rebecca were in our front yard doing a live stream about Justin's giveaway program he was doing. During that, one of the sheep had gotten out, the fence had come down, and somebody escaped. And as soon as they finished their live stream, they came in the house and let me know, hey, there's a problem out here. So I came out. We came out and all the sheep were in, but there again was part of the fence down. I went back and I watched the replay of the live video and I saw this.
This is for those who couldn't afford it. Go ahead, or I guess if you're feeling lucky. All right, get in there. All you gotta do, what?
There's a question.
Sure.
What happens if you're already a member? And
yes, that is Miss Penelope. She was the culprit again. Only this time she managed to get back in before I caught her, so I didn't know which one had done it. My main flock is way out there. A couple mornings ago I came out to do morning chores and bring them their hay, and the whole flock was out. The fence was down and they were grazing. I knew it was Penelope. She had done it the last few days, and again, historically she was the one that sticks her head through. I'd never seen any of the others doing that, so I had to separate Penelope and put her back in a cattle panel corral area with physical fencing, because that took my whole morning getting the sheep back in and getting Penelope secured over here, and I can't keep having that happen. We're gonna have to retrain Penelope to the electric fencing. So as long as she's in here, I'm gonna hold off on seeding this area because there's a chance that she is going to be eating some of the seeds that I throw down, and that would just be kind of wasteful, so we're not gonna do that. And Penelope is not alone over here. She is in the corral by herself, but she is immediately adjacent to these handsome boys over here, so she has plenty of company. We just have them separated by a cattle panel so that they don't get too friendly. If we were a full-scale farm, this would be a quick, easy business decision just to cull Penelope. It would be a lot easier. But the problem with that is Penelope is little buddy's favorite lamb. She happens to be my second favorite lamb, second to Maggie. She's the biggest of all of our lambs, including bigger than our rams. How quickly she has grown and put on size is really impressive, and we wanted to keep her for breeding purposes. She was going to be one of the breeders we were keeping. So culling her with those emotional factors put in there, little buddy would be pretty upset with me. So we're going to try and work with Penelope. We will hold off on the corral rehab for now, but today we are still going to be moving these girls into the next paddock and seeding in here. Check out this massive crater they dug in here. I was hoping for some soil disturbance here so that we get good seed germination, but this is a little bit more than disturbance. This is like excavation. So the pigs have decided that they don't want to use that shelter after all. They repeatedly have torn down the shade that I keep putting up for their water tank. I put it up, they tear it down. I'm trying to keep the backside tarped and a little bit going over so that it doesn't get too warm, but they're not having any of that, and they decided to make their crater here. So I'm thinking 1 week in a paddock of this size is probably a little bit too long. We may have to go to half a week, maybe even less. We'll have to keep playing with it and see. I'm gonna get the fencing set up for the paddock shift. While I'm doing that, we'll take a quick chicken intermission. The fencing is up. I've shifted the fencing a little bit over this way because right there, I don't know if you can see that little indentation there. That is where our utilities were put in many years ago, and of course it has sunken in there. And with the pigs digging holes that deep, so yeah, we're just moving them over here a little bit so they're not going to be over that line. The plan is I will lure the pigs to this corner with the field peas just a little bit, and I'll open that fencing that way and guide the pigs out into the new paddock. The only real potential fail point is right here where there is an opening. The pigs could decide to go around the Energizer and out instead of following the peas, but something tells me that I will have their full attention with those peas and they will follow me. Once they're in, I'll take this fence post right here, pick it up, and it should come to right here, and then we'll have our square. This should be enough to hold their attention, long enough for me to close that fence back behind them. very dusty. It's really amazing, and I don't mean amazing in a good way, but it's amazing on how much soil is displaced by the pigs and how much is lost to wind erosion. Our soil is so dry, sandy, and friable right now that there's a portion of the soil that's just gone, taken with the wind. With those seeds spread onto the ground, ideally at this point I would run cattle through here, and the weight of the cattle would really push the seeds into the soil. They'd get good soil contact, really good germination, and it would also mitigate the eating of the seeds by birds with them being pushed into the soil. But I don't have any cattle, so what I'm gonna have to do is throw down some loose hay, some of my spoiled hay, and get it on the ground, and that's gonna help keep the birds off of it a little bit. I got the previous paddock pretty well hayed. The only thing left to do now is I'm gonna introduce a little bit of water on there. I'm gonna get the hose and spray it, get some moisture in there, help encourage a little bit of seed germination that way. Even though they're not using it, I went ahead and brought over their shelter to the new paddock just because it wouldn't be right if I didn't. And I set up their watershed again, and hopefully it'll at least make it to this evening. We'll have to check back and see. Pasturing pigs, it is a completely different beast than pasturing sheep. It is quite the learning experience, but ultimately I really think it is going to speed up the regeneration and help rejuvenate our pastures.